And that's exactly where we'll start from on the show today. The high cost of living biting hard on every individual across the country. You heard it from the people in Kano State. If you go to Port Harcourt, if you come to Lagos, if you head out to Enugu or Makodi, the stories are similar. So what is going on? That's why we're having this conversation. The federal government has made a lot of promises. They've also reeled out a lot of policies. How effective are these policies? We're going to have that conversation. We're being joined in the program by two young men. Mr. Isa Abubakar is a former director, Youth Affairs, Obidati Presidential Campaign Council, also the National President, Northern Youth Council of Nigeria. In our Abuja studio, we have Abdul Mahid Umar, APC Zonal Youth Leader, Northwest. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having us.
All right, Mr. Umar, it's a straight question. I'm sure you heard what the people are saying. I don't know what your response will be, given the fact that the president promised renewed hope. The situation is looking hopeless every other day.
Mrs. Yomi and colleagues, thank you for having me. I think, as I said earlier, the APC is never denied the hardship in the country, and the hardship in the country was real. And also, we the government of APC, we are trying our best to see how we bring relief to the common Nigerians. The hardship was not created or was not created artificially by the Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration. It's already planted for a long time. It's just accidentally that Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu come into as a president and the time of harvest it. The hardship in the country was real. We never denied that. But at this junction, there are a lot of political party or opposition that are sabotaging the government by using the high dealers or marketers to hiding the food, most especially during this time of they take the thing as a politics. They politicize everything, especially the hardship. At this session, again, I want to appeal to the country that in any hardship, there was a relief after. I know President have the country on his mind. That is the reason he started taking measures. Like, I heard that, and inshallah, the thing will be released soon. President order police 42,000 metric ton of maize, 60,000 metric ton of rice. There was a scarcity of the food in the country. Nigeria now, if I can remember, we are producing 7 to 8.4 million metric ton of food annually. And the consumption in the country was about 11 million metric ton of the annually. But all this thing was caused as a result of insecurity in the northern part of Nigeria. We know 70% of the local production food in this country was brought out from the northern region. And due to this insecurity in the northern region, also caused this scarcity of the food in this country. But the cost of living in the country will soon become an history if the insecurity in northern region was tackling. Now, what is the cause of insecurity in the northern region? We are the northerners. We are the core northerners. I'm from Kano. Is lack of job creation. I said, I will say the truth even to my government. We, the northern youth, we need massive employment. We need more job creation. We need to invest heavily in agricultural product. We need to produce more young farmers. We need to stabilize the price of all the commodities.
Mr. Abdulhamid. Pardon me if I may come in there.
I'm with you.
Yes, pardon me if I may come in there. So many talking points that you have thrown up that we could follow up at this point in time. Some of the figures that you've talked about. But let's start with the politics of it. And I imagine Mr. Issa will want to also react to, you know, the political aspect that you have raised. You said that the opposition has been taking advantage of the situation. You particularly talked about raising the prices of goods in some places. Perhaps if you had evidence to that effect, would like you to speak to that. Besides that, if you say that the opposition is taking advantage of this, you're also echoing the position of the National Publicity Secretary of your party. And, you know, but the cost of living crisis protests that we've seen in the last couple of weeks have taken place in states where the president and candidate of the APC in the election won the presidential election in Niger State, in Kogi State, even in states where he fairly enjoyed support during the election. So speak to that, Mr. Abdulhamid, before we go to Mr. Issa.
Hello. Please, can you come again with your question? Let me understand. Sorry.
Well, you talked about the opposition taking advantage of the situation by hiking the price of some commodities in certain parts of the country. I'd asked that you provide evidence, if you had, to that effect, to prove the position that you have taken. And besides that, if the opposition is responsible, in some states where the protest against the cost of living has taken place, those states were won by your candidate. So speak to those issues.
Yeah. Opposition are taking advantage. I was in Kaduna last week. There are some young men that are trying to organizing a hardship protest. But I call their attention. I try my best to orienting them. Don't allow any opposition party to use them and organize a hardship protest in this country, because we know where they start, but we don't know where they end. As I go this process to know where is the problem started from, I realized that it's some opposition party that's sponsoring them to come out and do the protest. I never denied the hardship. Even the president is never denied the hardship. But I know the president has the country on his mind. And he's a person that has tried record of stabilized economy. Overlook the time that he had a trial record the time that he was in governor in Lagos State. How he boosted the economy. And I have a good hope that even the situation the country is in today, the situation will become a history in a few time coming. Not even that. Not even that, as I said to you, the country, this hardship, as I said earlier, is already planted by the previous administration. This is the time for harvesting. See what some former ministers, they are accusing for stealing the country money.
Right.
We get ourselves in this country to the state that in previous administrations, some people, they are more richer than the country itself.
Okay, what Mr. Omar...
We get ourselves in the situation
I understand, Mr. Omar.
where some individual
All right, pardon me to button. So my colleague was asking for specific evidence to speak to that. I know it's been said time and again that people are responsible for this, but it would be good for you to have evidence since you also spoke to this. But let's bring in Mr. Issa Abubakar, who is a former Director of Youth Affairs of Bidati Campaign Council. Well, I know you've listened to what he said, added to what Nigerians have said about this situation, and I'd like to just get your immediate reactions before we get into other issues.
One of the hardest things to do in life is to as we can all see, it is very, very obvious that the government have lost track and do not really know what to do. And defending them will be very difficult. And that is why my friend here is finding it very difficult to defend what the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration is doing to the masses of this country.
Okay, Mr. Abubakar, pardon me to butt in. Just your responses are not coming through as well as they should. So we'll just rectify that in just a few seconds and then come back to you, Mr. Abubakar. That's the former Director, Youth Affairs of Bidati Presidential Campaign Council. This is a situation that we're all in. Nobody is, well, immune to this. Perhaps some people are, but majority of Nigerians are in this. We're all in this together. So let us know your thoughts. First, how are you getting by? What you've heard from government. Those measures, are they enough for you? Is that something you're looking forward to? How quick do you think they'll materialize? Just before we get back to this conversation with our guests in the studio, the hashtag to use is CTV Morning Brief on X and other social media platforms. And of course, you can do this on WhatsApp as well. Send us your messages, how you're getting by. What is your thoughts about the measures announced by the government? And whatever it is you have to say about this conversation, perhaps questions or comments, let us have them right here on the Morning Brief. We still have with us Mr. Abdulhamid Umar, APC Zone of Youth Leader Northwest. He was part of a protest that actually took place recently, as well as Mr. Issa Abubakar, former Director of Youth Affairs of Bidati Presidential Campaign Council. So we'll just touch base with them in a moment. But guys, these issues are very much with us. They have tried to speak about their own perspective, because politics plays a major role in what is going on. We've elected people into power, whether you like it or not. They are the ones that will make the decisions that will affect you and I.
You know, Kade, you said something significant. How are people coping? Nobody is exempt, and that's, you know, significant. Everyone is affected right now. So I'm wondering, how are Nigerians coping with incomes being eroded? How are they managing their finances such that they're still able to pay their bills? You know, there are quite a number of compartments in the very little income that we have now. There is accommodation, there is food, you have to pay for food, you have to pay for transportation, you have to pay for electricity. It seems as if gone are those days where there was congestion on the highways. Now, many more Nigerians are parking their vehicles and, you know, seeking alternatives to get into their places of work. So we wonder how you're coping, Jeffrey.
Yeah, at the end of the day, there's a lot to talk about, but we're going to get the perspective of the people who are just like us, feeling the heat on the streets across the country. But now we head to Port Harcourt in the River State capital to hear from the people exactly how they are coping and what this means to them. Let's take a listen.
Cost of living, something nice. So like before, we used to buy, like I went out to buy this ogbono now. We used to buy 15 naira before. But going there to buy it is from 100, 200 naira upward. Basin of Gary, a mirror of Gary now is 2,000 naira. Everything is very high. You can't even buy things in the market. So that is how it is, very expensive. As a woman, when you go to market, before you can use 5K to cook a very good soup. But now, you can't even cook soup with that money. But before you buy Gary, buy everything, money has finished.
There's no headway. If you look the way of even the transport aspect of it, from Wimpy, where I'm living, to my shop, I spend approximately 2,000 naira every day. My children's school going, before I used to spend at least 500 naira, but now I spend 3,000 for their transport. My brother, there's no headway. There's no headway. There's no headway.
Everywhere is very, very hard. Things are very tense. If you walk on the road, you see people falling, dying, complaining. Every time Everything is hard. I went to market to buy something. They say one bag of rice is 75,000. Nothing here is very cheap. When you price something in the morning, by the time you get back there in the evening, they will tell you that that thing has stopped more than how it is before.
Well, it's an avalanche of lamentations. You can hear, we started with Kano, now Port Harcourt. As we go on with the program, as much as we have, we'll get across to the people. Just to tell you that this is happening all over the place, guys. At the end of the day, this is why it's important that the politicians and the political class understand the decisions they make. In economics, we look at situation where you look at models, so that when you make a decision, you look at all the variables, and know how it ends at the end of the day. So sometimes they say appropriating a model doesn't mean the model is wrong. You may be appropriating the wrong model to the wrong problem. So diagnostic is quite an important one. When you look at the numbers are quite huge. But let's get back to our Abuja studio.
Mr. Abubakar, I was trying to get your thoughts in there. Please go ahead.
Just as I've started saying that it is very difficult to defend failure. And it is unfortunate that within just less than a year into a government, the entire country is on fire, where there is hunger, starvation, people are crying, that they just need to survive, they just need something to eat. And it's one of those mistake, I would say, Mr. President did on the day of his inauguration, deliberately removing fuel subsidy without going to office to check what could be the outcome, what could be the impact of this decision I'm about to make. It was in a haste to take those decisions that we are now getting the feedback from those decisions he have taken earlier, and today the entire country are facing a lot of hardship. Things are not easy any longer. Minimum wage have not been increased for anybody. The palliative that they intend to give to civil servants is no longer coming. And it's very, very unfortunate and heartbreaking, because we think Mr. President was fully prepared for this tax, only to get to our notice now that he's just even trying to get to understand what the leadership of the country is all about. But having said that, we just have to find a way around it. The government have to find a way around it. People that are well-to-do in our country have to come to help Mr. President. Mr. President needs to consult more on what can I do to see how people will stop crying. Because what is looming before this very government, if care is not taken, could consume it. You can't leave people with starvation. They can't even afford the food. The resources is not there for them to go to the market to get what they need for their family. Even if the little resources is there, they cannot afford what is available in the market. So it's something that call for the entire people in the country to come together and see how they will help Mr. President. And in addition, my friend here, my colleague here was saying that all these things are politicized. Hunger is never a political statement. The political statement we are talking about now is the starvation in the land. That's the politics we're talking about. Hunger does not know APC, neither do hunger know PDP, neither do hunger know Labour Party or any other political party. What we're saying now is, how do we get out of this hunger? What can Mr. President do to get us out of this mess? What are the strategies that Mr. President can adopt to see if it's take him to go back and review the fuel pump price, if it take him back to go and sit down again and have a talk with his inner caucus to find a solution to what Nigerians are facing. This is what Nigerians are demanding for. Nothing more, nothing less. So the issue of is being politically motivated, or people are behind what is going on, more protests will spring up in the country, because once there is hunger, people will definitely unite because of hunger and find a way out for themselves. That is the bitter truth. And the earlier the people in government realize this, that they must find a way for people to get out of extreme poverty. Don't forget, Nigeria is one of the most poorest countries in the world before now. And now we have policies that is biting harder on people. And I just heard that the Minister of Power is also suggesting a subsidy removal on power supplies to poor Nigerians. So you should imagine where we are going to. So I don't know where they are taking their advice from. Is IMF a localized organization in Nigeria that will tell us how to run the economy of our country? The answer is no. We must look for indigenous economics, experts indigenously that will advise us. But we are taking advice from International Monetary Fund, taking advice from foreign countries that this is how to run economy. They are not here to understand the pain of over 200 million Nigerians. And you are listening to those people to give you a direction on how you will run the affair of a country that people are already poor. They just want to make them more poorer so that your government cannot be governable for you. Mr. President should not listen to these people. Those in power should not listen to this IMF of a team. Concentrate on how you can bring indigenous knowledge that will help you take people out of poverty. That is my concern. And I think that is the majority of Nigerians' concern.
All right, Mr. Omar, I'm sure that you're hearing from the Labour Party man who is already proffering solution. It's a battle of survival at the end of the day, Mr. Omar. So do you think that the Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration should start rethinking some of the policies that brought us here?
Yeah, thank you for having me again. The solution is already started. The measures is already started because, as I said earlier, there was a scarcity of the food in the country. And that is the thing that makes the thing to be harder for the Nigerians. We are over 200 million people in this country. And the demand of the food is less than the production of the food. We advise the government, it's our government, we advise them for investing more in agriculture for productivity. For introducing modern farming, for create more jobs, infrastructures, and so on. And the solution is common, admittedly. He already keeping party politics aside. I join him. We are not longer a partisan. Let us face the reality as the Nigerian young people. The heat is not only party people that it is not only Labour Party that are taking the heat. We are all taking the heat. That is the reality. And we are always together with the masses. I'm from grassroots politician. I'm always together with the masses at the grassroots. I feel the pain when the hardship was there. And the solution is common. As I said, it's common. Now, since there was a scarcity, I want to even commend the president for give an order of release 42,000 metric tons of maize and 60,000 metric tons of rice. But I want to advise the president again not to release those food items like that. Let them create a strong task force that will monitoring those food. Make sure the food reach to the needful people. Because in this country we are, it's more easier some governors to hide that food against 2027 general election. It's nothing new. They will hide the food and they use it for their campaigning.
Mr. Omar, thank you. I imagine that your job must be difficult, but you've done well so far. Thank you very much for your response. I'd like to take you to Mr. Abubakar now. You said earlier that the administration clearly needs help. But beyond that, I'm sure that as a member of one of the opposition parties, you're used to this question, but it's significant to ask it yet again. Your candidate had also campaigned on the resolve to remove fuel subsidy. So perhaps if they had won the election, your candidate had won the election, we just may be where we are yet again. That's why I'm asking, what alternatives to the economic policies of this administration would suffice to bring Nigerians out of the doldrums? What are your recommendations?
The recommendations are simple. The recommendations are simple. The recommendations are obtainable. Mr. President should not look. I am not a party to social safety net program in Nigeria. Because you create a Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs where you expect them to reach out to the masses with little token that will make them survive. At the end of the day, this token will not get to the masses. It will either end up being distributed by the people in the ministry, which we have seen that recently. The immediate past Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, she is under serious investigation. The current appointed Minister of Humanitarian Affairs have just been relieved of her appointment because he has embezzled what is meant for ordinary Nigerians. So I am not a buyer of social safety net program in Nigeria, because those that you will ask to supervise over these things will loot them. It is natural in Nigeria. I don't know why our people are so greedy to this extent that what is just meant for the common Nigeria, you that is already in position of authority will also embezzle it. So I am not, Mr. President, to see how we could channel that resources that is always in the Ministry of Humanitarian of over 600 billion. Abacha loot will come, they will say that it has been disbursed to the masses. Loot will come out from somewhere, will land that it has been distributed. No, these things should stop. There should be physical projects, implementation, revive our industries, especially in northern Nigeria, where we have high levels cases of insecurity. Kaduna, as it stands today, is not habitable to human being because it has been overtaken by bandits and other form of insecurity. So if there are functional industry, monies in the humanitarian ministry could be channeled to reviving our textile industry. Go back into cotton production so that the fabric we are even wearing should be solidly produced in Nigeria. The president knows all these things. He understands these concepts. But I don't know why those surrounding him are advising him differently. And I told Mr. President when he was elected that he should look at the mistakes Mr. President, that is former President Muhammadu Buhari, have made. His social safety net program had not worked for the benefit of Nigerian people. That ministry should be cancelled. We have NEMA, we have other states emergency agency that is taking care of all these things. Right. Money that is being channeled to that ministry should be used to revive our industry, especially in northern Nigeria. Right. That is the only way out of this menace we have. Because people...
Mr. Abubakar, if I could just come in, quite a situation. I mean, you ask people to go to the farms to produce food, right? But there's an insecurity situation. You talked about the social safety nets. We know that these are meant to be, programs available for the poorest of the poor. I mean, we've seen it happen in other climes. But again, there are allegations of corruption, which you have referenced. And it's important to say that there's still an investigation ongoing on that, which we expect the EFCC to come out, report on. We're still waiting on the EFCC. So there's that challenge. You ask people to produce again, but there's a power situation. There's rising cost of production from diesel to petrol, cost of transportation and all of that. So it's a very interesting conundrum we find ourselves in. We know the solutions, but there are threats to those solutions staring us in the face. And this conversation is essentially about having alternative policy ideas. And you've talked about some of those policy ideas. But I'd like us to wind down on this. As a Nigerian who is a leader of other Nigerians, what are you telling your people about this period? How are you telling them to get by, perhaps mentally as well? Maybe we can end on that note.
Well, our people must understand that the reality have beset us already. There is nothing we can do. And we have to manage the situation the way it comes. Because even Mr. President, in his last address to the nation, that he understands there is hardship. But absolutely, there's nothing he can do. So since you know that Mr. President has told there's nothing he can do, cut down your expenses, things that are not necessarily you shouldn't get yourself involved in. Maintain a lifestyle that will not put you into more trouble because we're already in trouble. And my advice for Mr. President, there is need for him to sit with people like us. Because we are the only one that can tell him truth to his face. Because we are not looking for anything from him. We are the only one that can tell him, Mr. President, this thing will not work this way. So Mr. President should create an avenue where he will meet with people that can tell him the truth. And we are ready to, because it's time for nation building. People like us are ready to make ourselves available to the president to tell him this is the way to go. Because those surrounding him have only their own interests at heart.
All right, so
it's only Mr. President that is patriotic as far as this country is concerned. As far as I'm concerned right now, he's the only one that wants us to get out of this mess. Those around him want to see, okay, what can we get out of the government? So Mr. President should look for people like us who will tell him what to do.
All right, Mr. Abubakar, a good way to ventilate your thoughts. Let me go back to Mr. Umar just for his last take. Mr. Umar, Mr. Abubakar has given a clear message to the president. What will also be your message to the president? In 30 seconds, Mr. Umar.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is my message, most especially the message from the progressive young people of the Northwest Zone. Let them create a more avenue like what my friend said. Let's bring some intellectual young people, educated young people to advise him more on the current situation. Let him forget about some people that are surrounding him, who they are always don't even know the situation of the country. To the truth of the path, we are approaching anarchy in this country. That is the truth.
All right, Mr.
If care never taken.
No, land on your thought. Land.
Hello. If care never taken, the thing that we don't need in this country will happen. And at the end, my message to the Nigerians, please, let's exercise patience to the Mr. President. He have the country on his mind. And I have hope that this situation will be soon ended. And the way he started taking the measures.
All right. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Abdulhamid Umar, APC Zonal Youth Leader, Northwest, as well as Mr. Isa Abubakar, former Director, Youth Affairs, Obidati Campaign Council. Gentlemen, well, thank you both for your perspective on this particular issue, and we wish Nigeria well. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, when it comes to the issue of cost of living and how Nigerians are coping, I'm sure you know there's a lot to talk about. But hey, we'll switch gears now away from the conversation around hardship and the economy to something a bit lighthearted. Our guest is already in the studio. We talked about him earlier on when we were telling you what we're looking out for today on the show. But hey, relax. We'll be right back after this break. He joins us then.